There we go. Hey everyone. Shoot, I should have done this outside. It's a gorgeous day. But actually my dad is packing up to go hunting right now, so it might have been a little loud. So maybe it's better we're in here. So thank you so much for joining us. It is, oh, actually we started a little bit early. Sorry about that. But hey, better late or better early than late, right? So we may cut it off at a minute to go to make up for it. So again, if you guys, like always, if you want me to know you're watching, leave a emoji in the comments or feel free to ask a question at any time, make a comment at any time. This town hall this week is going to be a little more relaxed than the usual one, so want to get a free-flowing conversation going. So I'll start off with a few topics. Welcome back, everyone. It's been a week. It's been a very exciting week. In the best sense and the worst sense of the word exciting. Minnesota interesting is what I like to say. So I hope everyone's doing well and taking care of themselves, and hope everyone's families as well. So let's jump into the COVID update first, and then we'll get to some potentially happier topics. Hey, Brian. Thank you for volunteering as well. I heard you're on a task for us this week. Hey, Tracy. So thank you. Which brings up a good point. If you do want to join Addie's Army, as we've been calling ourselves, they've been calling themselves. I didn't come up with the name. If you want to join our volunteer team, we are growing by the day, and it's so much fun. We can make sure that you are comfortable and confident in what you're doing. Doesn't always have to be, directly talking to people. It can be some other things too. Of course, directly talking to voters is what really helps us and is really going to push us across the finish line in this race. So we really need folks to get on the phones for us. Nancy's here in the comments too, and she is our amazing volunteer coordinator and can answer any questions. And then campaign manager is here as well. Hey, Tony. Yep, there's our volunteer link. Perfect. Sign up there and we will get you hooked up with a task so you can help us out. The reason, I always say we've got a great volunteer team. We're really, killing it and it's going well. That is what's going to win this race. I can say all the right things, do all the right things. We can raise money. We could do the mailers and the ads and all that. It helps for sure. It helps. But what's really going to drive this message home and spread our message across the district and reach as many voters as possible is getting on the phones and having those conversations. Think about it. If you are driving down the road and you see a billboard for some new restaurant, you're like, okay, cool, ignore it, keep going. But if a friend calls you and says, hey, I went to this new restaurant in, Carver, whatever it is, and it's really good, you're going to remember that. It's the exact same way with voting. So if someone calls you up and says, hey, I'm a volunteer with this person, with this campaign, and here's why I believe in them. And you have that conversation about, whatever issue it is that they care about and they want to talk about. Sometimes it's, police brutality or, property taxes, whatever it might be. And to get to have that kind of conversation with your friends and neighbors and community, that's really, really cool. And that is really what is going to win this race for us. So to all of those who are making phone calls, thank you. I cannot thank you enough. To all of those who are volunteering to drop off signs, write postcards. I don't even have the words for the gratitude that I have. So, yay, I'm so excited about a horse-related question. Okay, saw a horse today with a mask on over their eyes completely. I felt so sad for them, but okay, great question. I'm so glad you brought this up. And we are talking about like my horse, passed. So the horse, actually, I have a horse right now with a mask. So it's a, shoot, I wish I had an example. It's basically a mesh netting, so they can totally see through it. It doesn't hinder their eyes at all or their sight at all. It actually helps keep the flies out of their eyes. So the one that I have on one of my horses has an eye injury that he's recovering from, and his eyes look really beepy, and the flies are getting at it. So that just keeps the flies out of their eyes. It looks like they're blind. I know it looks terrifying. It looks like they're blind. They're not. I promise you. It's just like a little like a mesh kind of net. It's hard to describe without actually seeing it. So, but yeah, if you see that, they're fine. They're totally fine. Sometimes you see horses with like a plastic cup kind of on the blinkers so they can't see behind them. That's if they're like pulling a cart, or if they are aggressive to other horses and you don't want them to see other horses. But that's only when they're working, when they have a job, or they're showing or something. So you won't see that in the pasture. But the one that you saw in the field, that was probably a fly mask. And some of them come with the ears attached to them, and some of them are just have a hole so their ears can stick out. It's kind of personal preference for the horse. And our horses right now also have these things called shoe flies. and they're like a heavy kind of net thing that wraps around their leg. It's like really loose and velcroed around their legs, so the flies don't bother their legs, and then they're not stomping their feet and chipping up their feet. I've got old horses. I've got one with really, really bad feet, so we keep those on him all the time as well. Brad, you would love a sign for your office. Awesome. Yes, absolutely. You can have one. The lawn sign up is right there. Nancy put that in. So just request one on the website. It goes right to a Google Sheet, and then we'll put you on the next round for our deliveries. And if there's any like special requests or you need to meet us there or something, just shoot us an email. You can either email addie4mn@gmail.com, or my personal email is addie@addie4mn.com. Or, shoot us a Facebook message or whatever. We'll make it happen. We will get you your sign. And I'm always going to make this plug for donations as well. Everything that we're doing is costing money. We're not door knocking because of COVID. So we are having to spend a lot more money than we had originally intended. We're doing a lot of ad buys right now, kind of planning out the rest of the campaign, and those lawn signs, t-shirts, postcards, everything costs money. So if you have it in your budget to donate, 25, 50, 100, whatever it might be, the limit is 1,000. So please don't go above that. But that would be really very helpful as well. Even $50 just goes a long, long, long way for us. So, all right, we'll come back to that too. Let's do the COVID update first, and then we will come back to that. So as of yesterday, I didn't check it this morning, I apologize. We have 1,094 cases here in the county. We have 4 deaths. So we have had one more family that has lost a loved one to this disease. And there are 59 hospitalizations. One thing I found really interesting this week is that the state of Minnesota is trending as far as ages of cases. They're trending on the same, level as Carver County. So you're seeing that 18 to 34-year-old range really spike up. So it's not necessarily, the elder care facilities or congregate living or anything like that. It's gatherings. It's large gatherings. And I cannot tell you how many people I see on my social media having a boat party, going to whatever, and no masks whatsoever. So we have been, sorry, my dog's making a special guest appearance here. We have been exploring a little bit more outside of our property. So we've gone to a couple events and, done some things outside of the property. I only agree to go to things if I know that people are going to be wearing masks there. So I'm happy to come to an event if it's outside and there are masks required, just because of my, living situation and my mom's health. And my dad had heart surgery a couple years ago. And now that we're finding out that there's so many cardiac, side effects of COVID, we're increasingly nervous about him as well. So, yeah, long story short, wear your masks. Please tell your friends to wear their masks and your family to wear their masks. It's really not that hard. It's super easy. And even if you don't believe it, it's a really good signal to your community that you are, I'm so sorry, you guys, if you can hear that yelling outside. I don't know what's going on. So it's just a great signal to whoever you're visiting or, whoever you're around that you care about them and you care about, how they feel or their health or whatever. So, please, please, please wear your masks. I'm begging you. So I've had a couple conversations with folks over the past 2 or 3 weeks about if, Walz is going to end the peacetime emergency and rescind the powers and the executive orders under that peacetime emergency. I don't see that happening. I haven't heard any rumor of that happening. Now with so basically no changes on the horizon that I am aware of. And you guys know I would tell you. So, I will say with the firing of the commissioners that the Senate is choosing to do and play these really silly games with public servants and with our communities, in everywhere in Minnesota. I don't think that that's going to end well for a lot of people. I think it's just pushing, both sides are now just pushing each other to the breaking point and, well, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do this. It's insane, honestly. To fire and hold these commissioners, positions over the administration's head is just crazy to me. When I was committee administrator for the Environment Policy Committee, I had the great pleasure of working with the commissioner of MPCA, Commissioner Bishop, and her assistant commissioner, Greta Gauthier, and they are phenomenal human beings. And I would say that regardless of what party they're from. I actually don't know, any political background on Commissioner Bishop at all. So no, to answer your question, Nancy, no one else has been fired yet. They did interview or have a hearing around the MPCA. So that's the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency commissioner. Around, it was really aggravating. It was around basically enforcement of pollution laws that are already on the books, and kind of very accusatory of her, siding with one party and not doing her job. And it's just ridiculous. Just knowing her personally, that was really hard for me to sit and watch. Steve Kelly is the other one, and he is the Public Utilities Commissioner. All things that are really necessary to have in place when you're in the middle of a pandemic and people are relying on these services. So it's just crazy to me that we're going to hold that over Walz's head because he won't end the peacetime emergency and join the one other state that doesn't have a peacetime emergency going on right now. Cases are on the rise. And actually, Senator Little from Lakeville had a great amendment, 2 weeks ago, whenever the last special session was, that said, we could end the peacetime emergency if new cases fell below 200 a day. And I brought that up on the phone with someone and they pushed back on me. Well, that's never going to happen. Well, then we're still in an emergency. So we have to keep that in mind. Walz, I can promise you all, I promise you, Walz and his administration, all of his staffers that I know personally, are not just making all these decisions lightly and saying, oh, we're going to do this and this is why, kind of flippant about it. No one's doing that. Everyone is trying to reach out to folks and work together. The representatives are not working right now. They're still working. There's still meetings happening, phone calls, trying to get to solutions on things. People are putting in the work on the House of Representatives side. I cannot say the same for the Senate, and that is, just reinforces half the reason why I'm running is there's just such a stalemate going on at the Senate, and they're not doing anything. They're not putting in good faith effort. They're making this very much a election year fiasco, and frankly, it's disgusting, and it's really going to hurt the people of Minnesota. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. There is, this is what we get while doubt is the Republican leader, zero humanity. Yeah, I mean, I've been just totally dismayed with, some outside jobs that the minority leader in the House has chosen to take on. And there's a lot of pontificating and messaging that happens on both sides of the aisle that is not helpful. And not truthful. And you guys are never going to get that from me. I have the worst poker face on the planet. So never going to get that from me. That happens a lot in party leadership, and doubt, is one of those. Gazelka has been really difficult to pin down on anything to, other than just kind of some inflammatory rhetoric that's really not helping people. And, I'll say the same thing about people on the Democratic side of the aisle as well. When we get in these conversations and it's nitpicky and it's, well, they said this and this, this is what that means, and it's not truthful, you're massaging the facts to fit the narrative, that's not helpful. That doesn't make us have good policy. It's the reason we don't have a bonding bill. It's the reason we don't have a lot of bills that we could have. It's the reason that, and the Senate's sitting on a lot of bills and not even giving them hearings. It's just, it's crazy to me. So, all right, off on that tangent, sorry. Oh, thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. I really do. I think Ulsterholm said if we could get to 250 a day in Minnesota, we could get testing and tracing with the new rapid test. Yes, Eric, absolutely. I mean, we totally could. And I know Senator Little put the 200 number in there just as a starting point to get the conversation going. And he, thanks, Fred. He put that number in there just to get the conversation going. And it was voted down very quickly with a lot of just, forget that. He was trying to put forth, a good faith amendment where we could have that conversation and get that going. But instead of saying, hey, maybe that's a good idea, let's talk about that. Maybe 200 is not right. Maybe it's 3, whatever. They just shut it down. And, that signals to me that they're not willing to work on things. And that's not okay. That's not what we're paying them for. Our tax dollars go to paying all of these folks, all of their staff, all of the nonpartisan staff. And when we send somebody there to do a job and they say no and just give up, that's not, you guys, some of you have businesses, you've all worked places. That doesn't fly anywhere else. I don't know why it flies at the legislature. So election day cannot come soon enough. Hey, Dante and Lisa. How are you guys? Um, all right, we are still in a quiet period for the bonding bill as well. So there is a little, I'll say, gray area in the law that requires the governor to call a special session every time he extends a peacetime emergency, where it's not clear if that's only the first time that he extends it or if that's every single time. And we've never been in a global pandemic like this, so my son Boston is watching. Oh, hey, Boston. That's such a cool name, too. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Um, this has never happened. So, no, the Minnesota Supreme Court hasn't ruled on this. I think if he doesn't call the legislature back in a special session in October at least, that there will be a lawsuit. And I will be interested to see how that goes just from my law nerdiness. So that's about the Capitol update. Good and tired. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Dante, these campaigns are, you have to really want this. You have to really want to run. You're, going from sun up to sundown. And I'm now having dreams where I'm saying, I leave messages a lot, so a lot of you guys have probably gotten voicemails from me. And I say basically the same thing, so it's kind of automatic at this point. And I'm having dreams where I'm saying that to people in my dream. So yeah, campaigning, it's a grind, man, but we're all doing it for the right reasons, and we have to win this race. We have got to keep, flip the Minnesota Senate to get some good stuff going, to get anything going. Let's just get us moving here. So, all right, so let's switch to a campaign update, since we're kind of heading that direction anyway. I want to mention that I did attend a Farm Bureau meeting, the Carver County Farm Bureau, and talked with a lot of folks that I didn't know, and that was so fun. I spoke with, there was 2 young girls there, young, I say young, they're like my age and a little bit younger, that are, 6th generation dairy farmers. And I, think I know so much about farming, and then you go to a dairy farm, I didn't know anything. So I'm asking all these questions and got to pet a couple cows, and that was absolutely so fun. Beyond that, they had an opening. I live in Watertown Township, and they had an opening on their board of directors, a 3-year position, and I got elected to it. So I am now on the Carver County Farm Bureau board of directors. I am the second or third youngest, and I was sitting next to a really funny guy that has been there forever and ever. And so I kind of leaned over and said, well, what did I just get myself into? And he goes, oh, you'll be fine. So I'm really excited to work with those folks. There's the younger, women on the committee they've got great ideas on how to keep getting folks interested in farming. As you guys know, I talk about this quite often, that family farms are really struggling to stay afloat. We've got a bunch of, 5th, 6th, 7th generation farmers out here that are having a hard time hanging on to their land and making sure that their business is okay. Did my opponent attend the meeting? No, she didn't. Maybe farming is not really a priority for her. It is for me. And regardless of, people say, farmers are, it's, all Republican and conservative. That's not the point. The point is that people are struggling, and I know that I can help, and I want to help, so I showed up. And, there was some of them that don't like people with hair like this, or they don't like, whatever. But every single person there was willing to sit down and have a conversation and share their story. And I was just there to listen and learn and see what I could do to help. And I'm going to keep going to those meetings and, continuing those conversations and building those relationships, because that matters. That's part of why I love Carver County so much, is those family farms, those people that have been there. We've gotten our 100-year plaque for the farm being here, and the house we were outside of was built in 1904. I mean, you don't get that stuff in Minneapolis. You don't get that stuff in St. Paul. Even Bloomington, you don't get that stuff. You get it here in Carver County, and that is so important to keep those folks here and keep them thriving and healthy, business-wise and emotionally wise too. So anything I can do to help the farming community out here, and that means showing up and having those conversations and getting this done. So thank you, Leah. I like my hair too. Thanks. I appreciate that, you guys. It is so important, and I keep saying that it is so important to listen. It's not my job to come in and say, I'm a state senate candidate, and I know all of the ways we're going to fix all of the problems, and here you go. Here's my solution. That's somebody that's in it for fame and recognition. They're not in it because they they want to help. Helping is listening and figuring out what folks want. I haven't lived everyone else's life, so I don't know what everyone else is facing. So it's really important to sit down, bring all the folks to the table and have those conversations, get everyone's opinion and see what's going to work out best for that group, best for our community, and go from there. So I really appreciate those opportunities. And again, if you guys are watching and hey, this, random group or this event or whatever is happening and you think it would be good for me to go and listen and learn, absolutely let us know. Again, I'm very cautious, so masks and outdoor would be preferable. So, but yeah, just let me know about any of that stuff. I'm always happy to go and listen and learn. I appreciate that. All right, I mentioned we are doing another round of delivery on lawn signs. If you have not signed up, please go ahead and sign up, and we will get you your sign. Donations I mentioned. House parties I do want to mention too. We are hosting, or a couple folks are hosting virtual house parties is what we're calling them. So you guys know I make phone calls all the time. I'm talking to one person at a time. Sometimes it's two if they put me on speakerphone with a family or a couple, and those are fun. But what I would love to do, and what helps with time and energy and effort, is to speak with groups of people. So if you live in a neighborhood and you are really good friends with 6 of your neighbors, 10 of your neighbors, you can have a virtual house party, meet and greet, whatever you want to call it, and we kind of walk you through everything. We've got a little packet of how to get that set up and the invites and stuff, and you don't have to ask for money. You don't have to ask for volunteers. We're going to do that. We're the bad guys. We're going to do that for you. But if you're willing to host a meeting, just let us know. Send us an email, sign up on the website. There's a whole bunch of different ways to get a hold of us if you want to do that. That is enormously helpful as well. So we can speak to 10, 20 people at a time, and then those folks can go out and speak to their, 10 or 20 people. This, face-to-face, virtual face-to-face conversations is key here. So we'd be really appreciative if you want to set that up with your group. And it doesn't even have to be folks in the district. Of course it helps. We'd love to just, talk to voters. But if you think your friend that lives in a, district in Minneapolis or something that might want to donate $100, if they talk to me, then yeah, have them come too. We'll talk to whoever shows up. I'll say that. Nancy put her email in the chat right there. So if you guys are interested in that or know someone who might be, please get in touch with Nancy and we'll get it set up. All right, last thing I want to mention on the campaign update, and happy to answer questions too as we go. We had our phenomenal, amazing Senator Tina Smith come out and do an event with us on Monday, this past Monday. That was a really fun phone call to get. Senator Smith has an hour of her time, and she wants to spend it in Chaska. Wow, when was the last time a senator came out and hung out in Chaska? And wanted to talk about public education. Of course I want to talk about public education. So that was just really, it was fun, and it was great to see that our federal leadership in our state cares, and they want to listen. She wanted to listen and come out and hear what we had to say. So Dante was there. A whole bunch of folks in the chat were there. Oh yeah, Leah said hosted a house party for Moms Demand Action, and it was fun. So there you go. You can ask Leah for tips on house parties. Yeah, so her commitment to public education has always been very apparent. It's on her website. She's had a couple really great bills. She's really led the way on. I got to work with her office on a little fix on the CARES Act that we needed to have happen. So we knew that existed, but to have a federal senator come to our district and sit in our town and listen to us and our concerns. We had parents there, we had teachers, we had school board members, school board candidates, community members, and a whole bunch of people showed up to have this conversation. And, federal candidates and anybody at the federal level has very minimal time. But it was really meaningful conversation. And I was so impressed and struck by her intentionality in leading the discussion and making sure that every single person that was there in that circle had something to say and got to say it and got to talk about it. The other thing I want to mention, I don't know if Anna's watching, but Senator Smith kind of pointed out there was 2 younger kids in the crowd, and we were talking about education and reopening schools and that kind of thing. And she said, "No, I want to come back to you." I think he's about 12 or 13. And we want to come back to you and see how you feel about going. Do you want to go back to school? Are you worried? What do you think? So we talked to some other people, and then she came back. She said, "No, what do you think?" And I mean, if this kid ever runs for office, I'm supporting him. He had the best answer, really well thought out. And what really struck me, it wasn't like, oh, I want to go back to school or I want to see my friends. It was, I'm worried about the teachers. I'm worried about people keeping the teachers safe. And, oh, I'm going to get emotional. That was so meaningful. And that is our Carver County. That's our leadership in Carver County. That is a kid of a parent who has instilled that sense of care and community, integrity in their child. And that's what parents in this district do. That's how I was raised too. And I know everyone watching this, you're raising your kids that way. And, it's just, it means so much. And that's what makes Carver County so great, that we care and we show up for each other. And, yeah, Eli, he's amazing. Yeah, sorry, just reading the comments here. Yeah, absolutely. It really did. And with the referendum failing and what Eastern Carver County Schools has been facing in the past, year since then, and now with reopening, it adds a whole nother layer of stress, and anguish, really, to hear that our students and I met with the superintendent as well, and she was very clear in, safety is the first priority, safety of our students and staff, first priority. Folks want to get back to school. Of course, we want kids to be back in school. Teachers want to see their kids, but only if it's safe. And I think I want to applaud our superintendents and school boards and, everyone, teachers, students, everyone that's involved in these decisions, for sticking together. I know it's really tough. There's a lot of opinions and nobody knows the right one because we've never been here before. You guys are literally building the plane as you're flying it, and that's terrifying. So to hear such a young, bright kid, caring and leading with that care for his community and for his teachers, I know that exists in everyone here, and that's so great. And I just want to uplift those voices and highlight that. Oh, your father was a high school teacher too. Yeah, I forgot that actually my dad was a substitute teacher way back in the day for like second and third graders, for a very short time. He doesn't have the patience to be a teacher, so thank you. Parents and teachers and any school staff, really, you guys have a lot of patience, so thank you. I do also want to mention that there's a woman in the community who sews masks and sells them at the Smiling Olive in Chaska, and she does make child-size masks as well. So I did meet with the superintendent of Eastern Carver County Schools and the director of Cologne Academy, the charter school in our district, within the past couple weeks. And I've got a couple more, school board meetings and that kind of thing coming up. And one thing I've just been so impressed with is they're in a really tough position and they're stepping up with such grace and strength and saying, yeah, this is hard. And we weren't given the playbook for this. But here's what we're doing, and the ability to shift and change is there. If cases spike, they can go to distance learning fairly quickly, and everyone's trying to do the right thing, and it's amazing. So to touch on school openings a little bit more, yeah, Nicole, yeah, absolutely, they're real cute too. So to touch on the school opening a little bit more, there was also a virtual town hall with a couple teachers and parents and I think a school board member as well that I was able to catch a little bit of. But the takeaways from that were a couple different things. First is that the priority always is to keep students and teachers safe. I think all parents are feeling that, and I know staff is feeling that as well. This is really stressful, and there's no answer. So having that care and that grace for each other is going to be of the utmost importance through this whole process. There have been a couple meetings, and there was a demonstration the other day as well. There's virtual town halls, that kind of thing. There's a lot of ongoing conversations about this, and it's changing, and it's going to have to change a lot every day, really, depending on the data that we get back. So there was a demonstration. I do want to clarify this. There's a lot of chat about it on the neighborhood pages. It's my understanding that the teachers and the group that was demonstrating the other day out of outside of Lacademia was just saying, yes, we want to go back to school when it's safe. And yes, we need to prioritize safety of students and teachers. And there was a lot of misinformation out there that they were saying, we don't want to go back at all. And people were saying, oh, they can, demonstrate and gather, but they can't go to teach our kids. That's not what any of those teachers were doing. So, okay, great, Eric. We also need to inform residents that if they choose distance learning, that they should be giving ECC Online Learning Academy a strong look. While it may be enticing or considered more prestigious to enroll kids in a highly marketed state online option, the money follows the student. Yes, this will cause additional financial issues for this district. I'm going to say that last sentence one more time. This will cause additional financial issues for this district. Absolutely 100% right. There's nobody better equipped to teach your kids than the teachers that have already been teaching your kids, and that is the ECC Online Learning Academy. This is a really difficult, tricky situation, but I would also echo that. Eric, thank you for bringing that up. The money does follow the student, and with the cuts that we're already facing, and folks that a lot of teachers and staff have had to pull out of their own pockets to increase and plan the distance learning and plan the in-person, and there's just a lot of stress, stressors pulling at the budget right now that's already cut. We're already suffering, and our kids are suffering because of it. So please, actually, yes, do look into the ECC Online Learning Academy. Thank you, Eric, for bringing that up. Last thing I'll mention too is that teachers are needing help with PPE. There's a call to bring masks and get as many hand sanitizers and wipes and Purell and all that stuff that you can, in case students that do struggle at home, maybe they're from a lower income family, or for whatever reason they don't have a mask, they don't have hand sanitizer. The teachers are going to have to provide that. And it's really difficult to get right now. So if you have some avenue where you can get a mask or a pack of those like paper masks or any kind of hand sanitizer, Lysol wipes, whatever. If you know a teacher, reach out to them directly and see if they need it, or if they know someone who needs it. There will be a use for it. So if you have that ability to donate that, please look into that as well. All right, with our last half hour, I thought, I do want to mention March on Washington as well. It was this past weekend, the 57th anniversary of the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech, and there was a big march on Washington. And it was really cool. There's great videos of some of the speeches. I highly recommend you watch them. The goal of that, other than just bringing light and attention to what is happening in our country right now, the goal was to increase voter registration, participate in the 2020 census, which if you have not done that, please, please, please participate in the 2020 census. You can do it online. It takes about 5 minutes, and then those people will stop knocking at your door. So get that done. And then they also wanted to call for a new version of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So if you want more details, I can definitely provide those. But I just wanted to give that a shout out as well. My parents were... I know I talk about my dad a lot. I should probably stop doing that. But it's just so funny that he grew up so libertarian, and my whole life he's been anti-government and stuff. And I walked in last night or 2 nights ago to the kitchen, and the living room's out the side, and I could hear John Lewis giving a speech, and I look in there, and my dad's watching an old clip of John Lewis giving a speech, and I'm like, what are you doing? What do you think of all that? And he's like, he's just so courageous, and wanted to see the whole speech, and was just really moved by the program that he was watching. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what party you have always identified with. These are really crazy times right now. And we need compassion, and we need leadership that demonstrates that compassion as well. And I think, folks are waking up to that a lot. There's a lot of systemic issues that we need to start battling, and we're ready to do it. We just need leadership that's ready to do it too. So, what have you done to ensure you will be an anti-racist leader? That I'm really glad you asked that, Jenna. I have a lot of growing to do in that area, and I'm the first one to admit it. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm the first one to admit it. I grew up very privileged. My skin color has never been a factor in what has made my life difficult or not. I grew up, here in Carver County in an affluent district with pretty much everything I wanted. I grew up very, very privileged, and I have a lot to learn. What I have learned is that I'm not the leader in this. I don't have all the answers, and I shouldn't. I should use my privilege and my voice to uplift those who have been leading on these issues for decades. So I know, me and actually talked with a good friend of mine who's also a lawyer who became a lobbyist later. That we have a duty to, because we have fought to get into these spaces, like running for office, like, existing at the Capitol, that we also have a duty to bring light to other people who are not there at the table yet. So I will always fight for that. I will always, always, always fight for those folks to have a seat at the table. When it comes to, any legislation that the Posse Caucus, that's the People of Color and Indigenous Caucus, it brings forward, the police reform bill was okay. It didn't go far enough. There's certainly things that the Posse Caucus was pushing for that weren't finished yet, that need to be finished. And it is my duty to be an ally in that and just be vocal as all heck to get that done. Beyond that, it's really important, I think, for any person with privilege, whether that be an elected official, whether that be the boss of a company, to intentionally call out racism and do so in a way that isn't, that's going to help the problem. That's not just, throwing gas on a fire, but is actually going to be helpful. So there are some folks that were a little upset that I didn't come out hard enough in certain instances, and I appreciate that. I think it's my duty to make sure we can progress and improve, and the way to get that done is to call it out and make that step forward. So I definitely have a lot to learn, and I know there's leaders in this district that are miles ahead of me in this and can teach me a lot. And all I can say is I'm willing to learn and listen and do everything I can. I'm very aware of my privilege and what that's brought me, and ready to help however I possibly can use that to our advantage. So, all right, sorry, missing a couple comments here. Yeah, it is. You're right, Eric. Brian, it is a huge decision. Keeping kids at home away from large indoor crowds seems like the best option for my family. Yeah, and everyone who is, yeah, Jenna, thank you. Yeah, call it out. Absolutely. Gosh. Whew. Yeah, there's a lot. Well, and now I hate switching topics from such a serious one to such a not serious one, but that's what's next on the list. So if you have more questions, though, I'm happy to keep having this conversation. Keep listening, call people in. Absolutely. Yep. Making sure. I think a really hard thing to do, and one thing that I've heard my dad and his kind of executives on his company that he's retired now from, but they've been intentionally trying to figure out how they can make things more hospitable and more welcoming. So it's not just, well, how do we get a person of color on the board? We need to hire somebody. It's, that. And we need to, do whatever we can to make that hospitable, make that person feel welcome, make that person feel like they have a right to be there and they're a part of the decision just like everybody else. So yeah, I will always carry that with me as well. Especially, having been, not that this is anywhere, let me be very clear, this is not anywhere near, a race comment, but having been a woman in male-dominated industries, I'm aware of how difficult that can be to break your way in there. And I'm feisty and aggressive enough that I've made a lot of things happen for myself that wouldn't have otherwise happened. But that's not an option for a lot of people. That's not an option where, there's so many systemic barriers to someone having a seat at that table. So not only do we need to get those barriers away, but we need to make it hospitable and make it welcoming to be there. And plan in place for when they experience racism. Absolutely. There's been some incidents like where I work that weren't handled properly because there was no real clear plan. Yeah, that's a good note. I'm actually going to tell my dad about that after this. So anyway, okay. Last 20 minutes. I thought we should talk about what my former careers have been. I get a lot of questions about this, and I get some questions about, well, yeah, you were a horse trainer, so you rode around on pretty horses. Cool. That doesn't mean anything. So I just wanted to touch on, my former past careers and how that plays into the way that I intend to lead and legislate. So I've worked in, customer service. I was a cashier at a dry cleaner when I was in law school. I've been a cashier at Target. I've been a Caribou barista when I was 15. So I've dealt with all the customer service stuff that everyone else has. Anyone who's worked customer service, you know what I'm talking about. That has built up a lot of like thick skin for folks that just want to call and yell at you. And that happens to me too as a candidate. Someone is really mad at something that happened in the session, 2 sessions ago, and they want to just yell about it, and I just happen to be a good ear for them to yell at. So it happens, people want to vent. I get it. That has really, opened my eyes to how to deal with that emotionally. So I've also been a bartender. I was a bartender in college, and I have recently been a bartender pre-COVID in Victoria. Honestly, it's one of the most fun jobs you can ever have. I absolutely love it. I don't drink a lot myself, so it's not. I know some folks struggle with being in that bar environment, so it's not for everybody. But I actually just got an email the other week from one of my Sunday regulars who signed his order, him and his son's order. Miss seeing you on Sunday, and it was, whatever they drink. So that, stuff like that is fun. You get to build relationships with people you would never talk to otherwise. And folks that are there just to have fun. Either they're letting off steam from like a hard day at work, or, celebrating something. We had the place that I used to work in Victoria. We had a lot of like bachelorette parties, birthday parties. It was a very event themed kind of place. And that's so much fun. And I love anything that is high paced. If you're running back and forth and you've got 20 customers and you want to get the 10 shots for these people, 4 beers for these people, food for these people, I love that stuff. I love it so much. I don't know. Oh yeah. Oldest daughter is a barista. It's a good money. It's good work. AOC famously was a bartender, and she talks about how it trained her really well for politics. Yes, 1,000%. I've seen her speak about that, and I agree with every single part of it. When she was giving her speech about Representative Yohu's comments to her, it was, especially as a woman too, I totally get it. You get hit on, you get nasty stuff said to you all the time, and you can either take it or not. And I typically don't. So I didn't take that. So I have thrown people out of bars, just like she was talking about. And, when we see things that are really wrong, do we address it or not? And I'm always the person to address it. So, and it does teach you to be tough. It teaches you to manage priorities. It teaches you to be really, really detail oriented. If you're taking 20 people's orders, you're not writing it down. You better remember what that first person ordered, because if you get that wrong, that's on you. And legislating is going to be a lot like that. I mean, my current job is a lot like that. You have, 2 representatives coming at you and they need this, this, this. You have to prioritize what's important, what's time sensitive, what needs to get done right now, and making sure that you have all the backup that you need. So having a really great staff behind you is always, always necessary. So yeah, I loved bartending. I really miss it. But and it's a lot of fun. I was also at one point, right when I moved back home after I quit training horses, I was in Illinois for 3 years, well, less than 3 years, about 2.5 years. And I moved back home, and I needed a job while I was trying to figure out how to get into politics. I didn't know. And I didn't know if you could even make money doing that. I just knew that I wanted to be involved and make a change. So I needed a job, and our family is really close friends with our dog trainers, or the people that trained my dad's hunting dogs, and trained a couple of our pet dog, obedience dogs, for not hunting purposes. But we're really good friends with them. They needed a cashier or like a front desk person, and so I said I would do it. And I ended up staying there for, I think, over a year, and helping with a lot of the dog training, which was really fun. So I ended up being promoted to kennel manager. So implementing a new system. They were not using any electronic system at all for checking in or payments or anything. So I got them a computer and implemented a new digital system, and helped with some social media stuff that I love doing. And then, and by the way, we are on the opposite side of the political spectrum, complete opposite sides. Could not get any further away from each other. And every single day we had rational, great conversations about everything. I mean, they changed my mind on things, I changed their mind on things, and it was just such a healthy, fun environment to be in. And I was surrounded by, our clients were either people that hunted a lot. It's a very famous hunting dog facility. And I got to, meet all kinds of folks that way. And then we also had an obedience dog program. So anyone who just had a pet dog that was ornery or whatever, wanted to get them trained, they would come in too. So it was a wide variety of people from all over the state, and really, really fun. And it's what really sparked my, or solidified my interest in being a bird hunter. My dog loves to hunt birds, so I'm now a bird hunter because he wants the job. So, just speaking with people like that. It's also built up it's in district, it's just down the road from me. So it's built, I was able to build a lot of great relationships with outdoorsmen, outdoors people, I'll say, because there's a lot of women hunters out here too. So I was able to build those relationships. So when it comes to things like, gun sense legislation, sensible gun legislation, I have the unique ability to be able to speak with people who are gun owners, because I am too, and they know me. So and to get some input on that legislation from that side of the fence as well is really necessary and important. So I feel very, very fortunate to have had that opportunity. It wasn't something I ever planned on, and I don't think they planned on it either. And they're still very close family friends, and I'm just so grateful they gave me the shot. So. Have I ever considered practicing law? I did. When I was in law school, so when I went to law school, I wanted to be a prosecutor. One thing I don't typically talk about a whole lot, and I'm happy to expand on it more if there's questions, but I am a sexual assault survivor from college. And I'm on the RAINN Speakers Bureau, and I do advocacy work and speak about it at schools and events and things like that. But during that whole process was when I started paying attention to the law and what I could or couldn't do, and really sparked my interest in law school in general. And of course, my dad is like, "Oh, you love to argue, so you should go to law school." But I loved mock trial. I loved being like the cross-examiner on mock trial, and yeah, so I went to law school because of that. So my whole law school career, I was bouncing between being a prosecutor and doing international contract law, like for entertainment. Or international business law. I went and studied abroad in London for about 6 weeks to explore that a little bit. It's a cutthroat environment. There's folks that I graduated with in 2013 from law school that still don't have jobs in law. A lot of my colleagues have started their own law firms. It's a really, really cutthroat industry. So about halfway through law school, I decided that my heart wasn't in it. My heart wasn't there yet. And I was, young enough, I wanted to go pursue my passion of training horses while I was still young enough to like fall off and not get hurt that bad. So, and have, not very much money. Horse trainers don't get paid hardly anything at all. And most of your hiring packages are coupled with, we're providing you housing or whatever, never health insurance. I mean, I think I know one person that got health insurance through a horse job. That hardly ever happens. So I'm very familiar with the, the healthcare plan when you're self-employed. What kind of dog do you have? You do not have an English setter. Leah, we have an English setter. And he is ornery too. So my dad has an English and a Gordon, and I have a Gordon setter. That's so funny. Okay, we have to connect offline about that. That's so funny. Oh, I have so many questions. All right. Back to the horse training thing. So I wanted to touch on what that means to be a horse trainer. So I started out my first job in the horse world. Actually, I was volunteering at a therapeutic riding place in Minnetonka, or Waconia rather, that doesn't exist anymore. The company does, but they've moved out of district. But, I was riding and having fun, and I loved working with the kids that I worked with. I worked with primarily autistic kids and helping them, horseback ride, and it was therapeutic and awesome. And then that grew into me becoming a groom for a show barn. So horses that are very expensive and go to horse shows require a lot of care, so I was their like caretaker basically, and then worked my way up to eventually starting and helping other people start their small businesses in horse training and having a horse equestrian operation. So in Illinois, I worked for some very, very famous folks, and literally you would walk down the aisle and that horse was a world champion, that's a reserve world champion, that's an up and coming world champion. It was like world champion left and right. My job there was not only, I kind of built a reputation for being a really patient person that would break horses to ride. So I would take horses that have never been touched by a human in their life. We would run them into the barn, run them into a stall, and then that was my job, was to get them, used to humans and having a human on your back, and, how do you hold your head and move your feet and all that. And I was really patient. I have a very methodical way of breaking horses to ride that is sustainable for the long term. Some of the cowboy types would just kind of wrestle them around, and it was very forceful. And then the horse would get burned out by 3 or 4 years old and hate their life. And mine never did. So unless there was some health issue or something. So that was part of my job when I was there. The other part was managing a 45 stall operation. The people I worked for had to do all the client interfacing, and so I had minimum 5 people, up to 8 people working, with me. I was managing them, and then I had a colleague at the same kind of level as me, who taught more of the lessons, the riding lessons for people that didn't have their own horses. So I was doing all of the medication management, which is a lot in the show horse industry. They're very high-powered. I trained American Saddlebreds and Morgans. Those are very high-powered horses. They go really hard, meaning they put a lot of effort, and that's really hard on their bodies. So we do everything we can to keep them healthy. So I was managing all the medication, all the food, all the ordering, inventory, and all that stuff. And I was also shipping horses around the country. So when I tell you I was so nervous the first time, I had been working for these people for 2 months, and we had a $400,000 horse who needed throat surgery, and I needed to drive him to the specialist in Iowa in the middle of nowhere. And I sweat bullets the whole time. I'm like in not my truck, not my trailer, not my horse. And he got there fine, and he's a 3-time world champion now. So it worked out well. But very high stakes. I was also involved in a lot of sales there. I wasn't doing the negotiation there as much as I was just helping show the horse, helping, pump up the kids about it or pump up the family about it. And I was kind of helping close the deal, basically. And I saw some really, really crazy stuff happen. When you've got horses that are $400,000, $500,000 when they're 3 years old, that horse could die the next day. You have no idea. It's very, very high stakes. Quite a different environment than politics, but you're always trying to do the right thing for that person. Managing high stress, high maintenance critters sounds like politics to me. 1,000%, Tony, you're correct. A lot of different personalities too, going into what that horse needs or wants. I will say where I grew the most as a trainer and as a business manager, I'll say, because I didn't own the business, was when I was recruited from Illinois to go to southern Minnesota and help open a barn. There was some folks that had come into some money, wanted to open a facility, built this beautiful barn. Breathtaking barn, breathtaking home right next to it. My best friend and I were actually recruited to run that together. So typically, as you know, people that have had businesses, you don't expect to make a profit, or you don't expect to be in the black at all for the first few years. And we had a CFO who's a friend of my father's that was very good at his job, and he came in and helped us, set up the budget and figure out what we needed to do to get out of the red. And we had like a 5-year plan, and I am really pleased to say we broke that 5-year plan. We got into the black within 6 months of being open. I credit that with it being a really open market down there for that type of horse, and with my best friend and I being younger in the industry. Typically you have, the really famous trainers are like 55 years and up to like, I think the oldest trainer I know that's like still training and showing is like in his 80s. And when you're an assistant, you're kind of pushed to the side and you just watch and learn. You listen and learn to everything you can. So when you get that opportunity, like my friend and I had, you can run with it. And we had some great ideas for promotion, and we worked with a marketing agent, and we bought and sold really nice horses. We did all of the things that you want to do. So buying, selling, money management, time management, staff management, building the place from the ground up, just getting everything, in the ground and the way we needed it and ready to go was really quite a feat, I'll say. We've dealt with great customers, not so great customers, taking kids to horse shows for the first time and taking people to horse shows that have been to horse shows forever and ever. We went, I think like our 3rd week there, we went and picked up 2 horses from Jordan. There's another farm in Jordan. One was 2 years old, one was 4 years old. Neither had ever been touched by a human. And we turned those horses around, and we made 3 times as much as we paid for one of them. So I'm really, really proud of that, because he was difficult. Who's more difficult to work with, horses or people? People, 1,000% every day. Horses, you always have, I call it tools in your toolbox. So the more you do anything really, the more techniques you can pick up along the way. It's very much the same in negotiation, right? So if I wanted to pass a bill and I wanted this person to carry it, um, meaning they would be the chief author for it in the other, so in the House. You could approach them this way, or this way. Or if they said no, you want to have your backup plans. And if, you send a bill through this committee and it doesn't pass through that committee, what's your backup plan for that? How do you need to readjust and move forward? And it's very much the same with training horses. You pick up tools along the way. I'm going to try this tactic first, and if that horse throws a fit and says no, okay, I know what my backup plan is, this, and move on. I will say it's hard work. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I have never picked an easy job. I've never picked anything to pursue that's really easy, but it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. We worked. I got up at 3:30 in the morning every day. I would typically go to bed at like 7:30 or 8, but I would go work out at the gym first and then go feed our horses and get my day going. And, you're training horses and doing all the other, business stuff all day long. And then in the afternoons and evenings, you're teaching riding lessons to people who, worked during the day or went to school during the day. All of that work for not a lot of money. I mean, if you're teaching lessons, you're maybe making like $20 an hour for a lesson. It's expensive to keep horses and maintain horses, so we took a little bit smaller salary at that job just because it was getting off the ground and whatever. But you're not building up a retirement. You don't have health insurance. You're really working sun up to sundown for the reward of the job. The reward of the job was selling a horse to someone who really needed that horse, or even just having a really, a breakthrough ride. Someone who's terrified of horses that really wants to come and ride. That takes a lot of work to get them to a place where you don't need to hold the horse while you're walking with them the whole time. And I've been able to do that. And I can't describe the feeling. I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about it. I cannot describe the feeling of watching, a young kid, because I grew up riding. I started riding when I was 9. So I remember these times for myself, and I always wanted to give these to other people. But watching a kid, you're teaching the lesson and they're having a really hard time with something that maybe is really difficult for them, and all of a sudden they get it, and that light bulb moment happens, and you're like, wow, that is so cool. Like, the horse is the teacher. The instructor is just there to facilitate the thing. And you're working so hard for that one moment, and it's the same way in legislation and politics. Like, it's hard to have these phone conversations all day long. It's hard to raise a lot of money. It's hard to run for office. It's hard to organize. Even if you're not running for office, it's hard work behind the scenes. It's hard work at the Capitol. And you don't get paid very much money. I mean, senators make, I think, like $43,000 a year. Like, you're not getting paid a ton of money, but it's not about the money. It's about the result, right? It's about the reward. It's about making sure that, that family farmer that's struggling, hey, we've got this, emergency farm relief bill and we can help you, and just knowing that you can give that to somebody and you can facilitate things to make that happen. Like, I can't go in and just pass a bill myself all by myself. It takes a coalition of people behind that bill to make that happen. It takes co-signers, it takes people, or co-authors, it takes people on the committee that are willing to support it, it takes people on the floor that are willing to support it, it takes all of the staff, preparation, and that we're all there to make that happen for the community, to make sure that we don't have to fire any more teachers because, we lost a referendum, to make sure that people of color aren't fearing for their lives every day because we can, make a police reform bill, or, whatever it might be. We can do that. And I know how to do that because I did it with horses my whole life, and I know I can do it with people here too. I appreciate your support for common sense gun laws. We need gun owners like you in the Senate. Moms, I do want to make this very, very clear. I'm glad you said this, Leah. Moms Demand Action is not against guns or gun owners. We are for gun safety and against gun violence. Me too, 1,000%. I'm very fortunate to have a family that has taught me, what being a gun owner means, what that responsibility actually is. And there's a lot, common sense gun legislation is wanted by the huge majority of Minnesotans, and we can get there. We just have to, have a Senate that wants to actually have the hearings and get rid of all the rhetoric around it and just get to work and make this happen. So yeah, I appreciate that. I'm absolutely the same way. I made a TikTok the other day that didn't, the audio didn't line up right, so I didn't post it, but it was like a conversation with a voter, and standing next to my gun safe about like why it's important to have, store your guns properly. Anyway, such a wealth of experiences, not like your competitor. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. I've always been a person to jump in head first. I never do anything just kind of like half-assed. Oh, I'm not supposed to swear. Sorry, guys. I never do anything halfway. I'm a jump in head first, get it done kind of person. Much to my, therapist dislike saying that. I take on a lot because it means so much to me. And I am one that, won't go to bed until it's done. I will get up early and get it done. I will work day in and day out to make sure that that happens. And I don't take anything lightly. One thing I've said consistently to our staff, my team, has been that I don't want to let anybody down. I know that, people that are giving me their votes, their donations, their support, their time on the volunteer team, they're not doing it because of me. None of this is because of me. This is because of the vision that we need to accomplish here in Carver County. That we want it to be as wonderful as it has been for us for future generations. And we want people who want to be here and feel like they're safe and they're happy here, and we want them to thrive here. I don't want to let you folks down. So I don't take this lightly. And I can promise you, if you send me to the Minnesota State Senate, you will have a tireless advocate for you. Period. End of story. We could disagree on a lot of things. We're going to find common ground on something, and I will fight for that something. I will. So I welcome all those conversations. I have conversations every day with folks from all across the political spectrum, and finding that common ground and finding what we can agree upon and figuring out a way to get it done is the best part of any day that I ever have. So I welcome those conversations. Yeah, Tracy, I'm glad you brought that up too. I do have the Moms Demand Action designation as a gun sense candidate, so appreciate that. Yes, we do need to flip the Senate. We do. I can't stand it anymore. Not that I ever could, but yeah. A Senate that is refusing to have hearings on bills that we, as a majority of Minnesotans, want and need, that's not a Senate that works for us. That's not what we sent them there for. I really do think, and I do want people to keep this in mind too, that there's a very good chance that the DFL can flip the Senate this year. So I would much rather send a person of the same party to that office who also has the ability to speak with the other party. My opponent has been unwilling to have those conversations with Democrats. So I just, if it was me looking outside, I'd vote for me too. But, you guys know me. You know that you can rely on me to be a tireless advocate for our voices, our very unique Carver County voices, and be willing to have tough conversations with anyone who's willing to help. And that's what's really, that's what politics should be. It shouldn't be this like tribalism stuff. That's obviously not getting us anything. That's hurting people. So I'm running to put an end to all that and flip the Senate and get some stuff going for us here. So, all right, that was a really quick hour. I can talk about horse training and horseback riding and all kinds of horse things forever and ever. So I appreciate the indulgence. And if you guys ever have any questions about horses, about politics, about, whatever you want to talk about, please get a hold of me. I will we got to put my phone number too on the website. I keep forgetting to do that. But my number, if you ever need me, call me, text me, whatever, 952-856-7343. I can't always answer because I can't work and campaign at the same time. But please get a hold of me if you need anything. Tracy. Do not need another representative spewing partisan talking points, and that is definitely not the way I operate. That means a lot. Thank you. Yeah, I am never going to just say something because someone told me to. Carver County is my first priority. Always has been, always will be. So you've got my word on that. I'm the hometown girl, right? So this is my community, and I'm going to fight for you guys. You got my word. All right, so if you ever need me, call me, text me, message me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, email, check out our website, and please like and share this video and every other one. We also put these on YouTube, so if there's one you liked from the past and you want to share it with a friend or a neighbor, please go ahead and do that on our YouTube page, and sign up to help us volunteer and help us bring this sense of hope and optimism back to politics in Carver County. And we can do this. This is doable, guys. We got this. So, All right, go enjoy the rest of your day. I have another event I got to get to here in a little bit, and lots of phone calls to make in between. So, um, yes, like Tracy said, talk to your friends and neighbors about this campaign. That's the best way to get it done. All right, cool. Thanks for sticking with me, and we'll see you guys next week.